Hi, I'm Jackie Rabbit. Lots of you have asked me recently, what happened to you on your Ducati? What was that big wreck like? What happened? So I'm going to tell you all about it. And it was really hard. It was a long time ago, but it was really wild. And I'm going to give you all the details this time. So go give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the bell so that you get notifications when I post a new video. Let's go talk about what happened to me when I rode my Ducati and crashed. It was horrific. Let's go share all the gory details. So yeah, I crashed my Ducati. And yeah, I know, okay, yeah, girl rides motorcycle, girl crashes. I get that that's like your first thought. I understand. But by the end of this video, I promise, I will change your perception of me. I actually was a very proficient writer. So we'll talk about that too. So some of you maybe have never seen me before. And I popped up because I crashed your favorite kind of motorcycle. And hey, I get it. They're really cool, right? I love Italian motorcycles. I always have. I have some Italian lineage and stuff. And so I've always thought they were super awesome, you know. And Ducatis are special, you know. They sound so cool. And I got a 900 SS because it sounded good. Like my friend had a 748, a yellow 748. And it was so cool. And I wanted one so bad, you know. And I thought it was beautiful. But another one I'd seen at a gas station and I listened to it, it sounded so great, like so unique and like almost like stereo. And I asked him what it was and he's like, it's a 900 SS. And he said, it's air cooled and not water cooled. And it's got a certain kind of clutch and it doesn't make a bunch of rattly noises. Oh, it had a regular clutch rather than it had a wet clutch instead of the dry clutch that rattles. And my friend's 748 made that noise too and stuff. But there was something about the engine on it that just, it was so beautiful sounding. Like nothing else I'd ever heard. And I had to have one. So eventually I got one. In fact, what I really wanted, and here's the 998. So I really wanted something that was like this. I love the look of this beautiful motorcycle. I just loved it. And I wanted one that was green, white, and red. But what I got was different. I went down to the Ducati dealership and I got a matte black 900 SS with full bodywork. And it was so swoopy and beautiful. And oh my gosh, I loved it. So I took it home and I thought one day I'd have it painted exactly the way I wanted it. But for now, I was just loving it. So I wanted to break it in. And I wanted to go get the miles on it so that, you know, I really could, you know, pour on some power once in a while. And I was a good rider at that point. I had raced a full season of 50cc MotoGP. There was a couple other girls in there with me too, but I did pretty well. I ended up 4th on the National West Coast Championship that year. Now granted, these were itty bitty little motorcycles. Trust me, they were really little and they didn't make a ton of power, but they did teach me how to ride really well, to the point where I was actually dragging my knee through corners and really learning, you know, how to carry momentum through a corner and how to appreciate a lightweight, good handling motorcycle. And that translated to my street stuff, you know. I actually had a Cagiva Mito 125, I hope I'm saying that right, which looked a lot like it's a two-stroke version of this, made by the parent company. It looks just like this, but it has a 125 two-stroke motor in it, and I was going to use that to race with. And it was gorgeous. It was so cool. And I used to ride it around, and I remembered, oh my gosh, this thing is so accurate and so wonderful. I'd be out on the street riding, nearly putting my knee down with no protection. I didn't have my leathers. I had jeans. If I put my knee down, it would have really hurt. I could have hurt myself, but I didn't. So what happened was there was a wreck. I won't go into the details of the wreck. A kid stopped in the middle of the road. A car was coming. He wasn't watching the motorcycles. There was 30 of us going by in a group. The two cars hit each other. One car came across and whipped in between myself and my friend who were at the back of the pack, trying to watch everybody else to kind of take care of them. And I hit the front of that Buick. He hit the back of the Buick. I don't remember it. I remembered nothing. So the first thing that happened was I remember waking up in the helicopter. And I guess I asked, well, what happened? You know. So they told me, and I knew I was done. I just knew it. I can remember feeling like, this is it. I've got nothing left. And so I just told them, I said, tell my spouse I'm sorry and that I love them, because I knew I was done. And that was that. So I was in a coma for a week. I know last video I said a month, and I didn't mean to say that. I was in a coma for a week. And then I was in the ICU for, I think, another week. Or maybe it was the same week. I don't even really know. And it was very scary. I'm in this hospital room. It's all glass walls. I can't really move. I'm paralyzed. I can just move my top half a little bit, and both wrists are in big casts all the way to my elbow on the left. There is a great big bunch of bars externally, screwing through the flesh on my leg, holding my leg together. I can still move my left foot and toes. That's it. That is it. I was really seriously messed up. Thankfully, I didn't really have any head injuries. It was just my body was messed up. So my pelvis was broken, and it was broken off my spine. My right knee was nearly disassembled. The popliteal artery had been ripped, and they grafted it with Gore-Tex. And they put my left elbow together. All the bones came out of my elbow and out of my wrist. I had big scars across both wrists and a lot of scars up through here. I still have most of the right leg. The nerves don't work, and some of the muscles don't work. In fact, most of the muscles in my right leg don't work. But I limp around and I walk around and I do my thing. So, I've learned to adapt. But I was in a wheelchair for 3 years. I had to learn to walk again, and it's taken me years. It's been 17 years now. It's taken me years to get to the point where I could even walk without a cane. And I don't walk, perfectly. I limp, but I use my core muscles to really, really, really hold myself together as much as possible and walk and have some dynamic stability as I move. And I get away with it, and that's fine. But we're talking 17 years of really pushing hard to get to that point. So if you're sitting there and you're still listening to me and you're fascinated, I'll go through what happened in the hospital, and then I'll tell you exactly why you should be extremely careful with your Ducati and make sure you have the proper gear. And this is going to really sink home with you guys. I know you're watching a girl that's talking about riding her motorcycle, and you probably don't believe me about my skills, but I was a skilled rider, and I will tell you something that may actually make you get off your motorcycle forever, or at least off the street and maybe just do track days, which I highly encourage. So stay with me. This is going to really get to you, because you really are going to want to listen to what I have to say. So I was in the ICU for a while, finally got out. I remember one nurse, was just horrified at my injuries, and I felt terrible about it. They really didn't expect me to live. I did die 3 separate times, once in front of the helicopter, and they were pumping me with the paddles, as they were bringing me up into the air. And again, in 2 of the surgeries I had, where they reassembled everything and put my pelvis back together, and then they worked on my wrists, and I ended up with hernias later, and had to have those fixed as well, and all sorts of things that just kept cascading. I had a massive infection in the PICC line from the helicopter that they put in my chest, and that nearly killed me with a staph infection. My liver and kidneys kind of shut down on me most of the way, and so I turned yellow and got super itchy, and it's like my hepatic system just shut down, and I wasn't getting rid of the bilirubin, and so my bilirubin count was really, really high, but I got through that and I made it. And it was on and on like that. There was a solid month where they just didn't expect me to live, but I kept pushing through. I just survived, After 3 months in the hospital, I finally went home. They wanted me there for 6 months, but I faked my way out of it. I just convinced them I could do stuff. And I got lucky, and I actually did a few of the things that they wanted me to do, to be able to go to the bathroom on my own and stuff, and I just barely could, And I went home, and that was that. But I'll tell you why you might want to just stop riding on the street, because everybody out there, they're not paying attention at all anymore. I mean, they're all on their phones. They don't pay attention to motorcyclists. You could get hit and have the same problems as me. But when I tell you something that you may not know, if you're new to my channel and you don't know me, what I'm about to tell you might make you really think twice about riding a motorcycle. And I actually know people who stopped riding after I told them this one thing. So back then, when I was riding and I got in this accident and it was really life-altering, I'll tell you how life-altering it was. I used to be a boy. So if you hadn't picked up on that part of this and my channel, I'm trans. And back then, one of the things that was a reality was that I kind of wished that that could have been an excuse for me, to not have the equipment anymore. The accident itself didn't turn me into a girl, but I will tell you something, it did damage the goods a lot. There was quite a bit of paralysis, so one half of it has no sensation whatsoever. And it could very easily have been both sides. In fact, they call that saddle numb, and I know people who that's happened to. And it comes with incontinence, and it comes with no sexual function, no sensation either. So that's a reality, and that happens. Like, people can still walk, but that part is numb. And the reason on a Ducati that can happen is the tank is sculpted. It has these little curves. So the tank has these little sculpted curves that hold your thigh into it, right? So that you can really tuck in and turn when you're turning. Well, that's also great for catching your crotch and keeping it right there at the motorcycle tank when you hit something solid. And it causes your pelvis, which is normally like this, it causes it to break like this, like an open book. They call it an open book pelvic fracture. And one of my sides pulled off the spine. So it pulled off the spine completely, and it open book fractured. And I lost sensitivity on one side. And so when I was wrecked and was in that wreck, I was a boy. Guess what? I'm a girl now. So you may really want to consider the idea of putting yourself at that kind of risk. And if your girlfriend is nudging you incessantly, it's one of two things. Either she wants you to quit riding on the street, or maybe she thinks you'd be better as a girl, just so long as you're not the cute one. So bear that in mind. That's the story. There's a lot to it. I survived. I'm no hero. I did what I had to do, and I got through it. It's really that simple. And I still absolutely love motorcycles, but I don't ride them, because if I tip over and fell off, even in a parking lot, it could be paralysis for the rest of me, because I have two great big deck screws holding my tail on. So, that's the way it goes. So that's the story. You guys kept asking. I wanted to make sure I finally put that out there. There's something about me you didn't know before. And for those of you who are brand new to the channel, hey, thanks for sticking around and giving me a shot and listening. That you were interested in motorcycles enough to listen to some girl talk about getting in a big crash. So take care of yourself. I don't want you to get hurt. Please wear all the safety equipment. Go get leathers that are protected. They have something called Dragon jeans that have Kevlar in them and stuff. Don't go out in your flip-flops and your t-shirt and stuff. Get your equipment on. Even if it's hot, it'll actually keep you cool by keeping the sun off of you. That's why the racers are full suited in the middle of 110-degree heat. Stay hydrated, stay protected, and by all means, stay off the road if you can. Track days and riding on the track are immensely more fun. Try it out. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye. So one of the things they told me was that my pelvis had broken, and they put it back together, but it was still kind of splayed to one side. And it would be a real problem if they could get me to walk, because I'd walk with a really weird gait. And they wanted to re-break it and set it again and put it right. And I said, I don't know, I don't want to do that. That's so invasive. Can we just leave it alone? And they said, yeah, but if you leave it alone, when you do walk, you're going to walk funny. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? I walk with a limp. I have a paralyzed leg. And they said, well, if we can get you to walk at all, you're going to walk like a girl. And I said, leave me alone. Leave me alone. It's fine. Leave me alone. I don't care. It's fine. Don't touch me.